Hey, what's up rugby fans? Adam here, and I am very excited to be carrying on our Premier 15's 2021 season preview with an exploration of the potential fortunes of two more sides in the Women's Top League. Now, if you haven't seen previews 1, 2 or 3, then click here. And we are also kind enough to put the links down below in the description too. How nice are we? Anyway, you know what to do. Before we get started, give this video a like, subscribe to our channel because you know we bring the best women's rugby content anywhere on the planet, and turn on those notifications so you know when the next Women's Rugby Show video will drop. You may not be aware, but YouTube stops sending you emails when your fave content creators release their new videos, so hitting that bell icon is the best way forwards. Now, speaking of forwards, there are some absolute belters who have been signed by two of the clubs I'm looking at today. So let's go ahead and preview Worcester Warriors Women and DMP Durham Sharks. Okay, so first up, let's look at the three W's. And it's fair to say that the contrast between how Worcester Warriors Women ended last season and how they're shaping up to start this season is like night and day. They only won 3 of their matches in 2019-2020, and 2 of those were against Furwood Waterloo and Richmond Women, both clubs who we know now didn't survive the re-tendering process. To be fair, their other win was against local rivals Bristol Bears, which was a pretty big scalp, and set them on their way to that 5-game losing streak that Megan told you about. Overall, Worcester hadn't had a great stint in the Premier 15s, finishing bottom during the first 2 iterations. Things did start to look up since Roy Davies was given the boot after only 1 game last year. Do you remember that? And his replacement, ex-Red Rose and legend of the game Joe Yapp, has worked tooth and nail to turn the club around. There were flashes of that last year, but this summer Yapp has had plenty of time to make her mark, and she has done that in spades. So, what has she done over the summer that makes this Warrior side look like a completely different outfit going into the new campaign? Well, by committing 23 current players to the club by signing new contracts and bringing in a host of new players, 19 to be exact. However, it's not just the quantity that's notable, it's the quality. Amongst them is England youth scrum half Katie Mattinson, who has worked under Joe before and has had a lot of rave reviews regarding her talent and her potential. There's former Bristol Bears front row Flo Long, also a Red Rose youth player, and some top Welsh internationals including Hannah Bluck, who can play wing or centre, and Robin Wilkins. Now the fly half is pushing nearly half a century of caps for her country and will add an element of class and control to that backline. Staying on the theme of international signings, and well, they have added some real pedigree, as England back row Jo Brown was one of the first moves of the summer. The NHS worker swapped Loughborough for Worcester, and she brings with her a player with international experience, an engine room which could go for days and days, okay, maybe 120 minutes, and a player who will give her new club more aggression in the tackle and at the breakdown, just what the doctor, or in this case the NHS physio, ordered. And if that wasn't enough of a marquee signing, what about England's 7 stars Heather Fisher and Alex Matthews joining the club? Now, before these two were tearing it up on the 7 circuit, both already had calibre in the 15 side of the game. Fisher has over 20 caps for England, has played in Commonwealth Games, has played in Olympics, and of course has played in the Premier 15s, most recently with Gloucester. Now, she's poised to switch from back row to centre and will bring something which her new club has been lacking in recent seasons: intensity and a do or die work rate. Now, Matthews is certainly no slouch herself. A World Cup winner in her mid-teens, she scored over 100 points on the 7 circuit and won back-to-back RPA Women's Sevens Player of the Year awards to add to her other medals and accolades. She's originally from just down the road in Bristol and has played for the likes of London Irish and Richmond. It's almost like her and Fisher will switch positions, as Alex is a centre who will now be playing in the back row for Worcester. I have to tell you, I'm super excited to see her in action this year, as she is literally the walking definition of the X factor for her club. Worcester do still have a lot of young players who will be a perfect fit under their head coach, as she is renowned for getting the best out of fresh talent. And they've done the local rugby community no harm by establishing a partnership with Hereford Sixth Form College and Worcester Rugby Club, which further provide that pathway for young talent to come into the club. But it's undoubtedly the more established players who could have a big say as to where the club finishes this year. So, where will the club finish this year? In Wilkins, Brown and Fisher and Matthews, they have the type of international class that other sides in the Premier 15s could only dream about. And if you add them to their current crop of stars, including, I don't know, off the top of my head, Alex Callender, Carice Phillips, Sinead Harries, Laura Keats and Lydia Thompson, to name a few, then you have got an entirely different prospect than the bottom place team the rest of the league knew in 2018 and 2019. For me, the biggest difference maker will always be Lydia Thompson. And if she can stay fit throughout the whole season, we could be looking at one of the top try scorers in the whole league. Okay, so prediction time. The problem for Warriors is that almost all the clubs in the Premier 15s have strengthened over the summer. And despite bringing in a crop of new faces, there is still quite a lot of youth in Yap's side. The good news for them though is that the only way is up. And although I cannot see them finishing in a playoff place, there is nothing to suggest they won't be challenging for those 5th to 7th place places. Right, on to DMP, or to use their official name now, DMP Durham Sharks. That's right, one of the major pieces of news over the summer is that after the North Easterners survived the retendering process, they actually announced a name change to identify the link between themselves and Durham University. They became one of the first teams to create that link during the pre-season, and it's just another great example of women's rugby doing its best to benefit the next generation of young players. Now, aside from that, it was all quiet on the Western Front for most of the past 7 months. So let's look backwards before we can look ahead. Or is it that way? Anyway, doesn't matter. DMP were another side who at times seemed just happy to be in the Premier 15s. In 2018 and 2019 they finished 8th, but last year saw a resurgent squad, and in a season which saw some impressive results and matches where they were a lot closer to the bigger sides than usual, they finished a lofty 6th. Now, you would think that this would be a cause for some quality additions rather than a complete squad overhaul, and more importantly, looking to hold on to their main stars. Sadly, that wasn't the case, and there's been a lot of upheaval for them. In fact, that's not even considering the fact they're based in an area of the UK which recently went into local lockdown. I mean, come on, how is anyone going to train or even go in or out of Durham to play them? Anyway, beside the point, head coach Justin Loveridge stepped away from his titular role, with head coach Stuart Dixon and performance manager Gordon Brett now combining to establish a coaching dream team, if you will. However, the club decided against retaining the services of World Cup winning Red Rose legend Tamara Taylor, on or off the pitch, and they also lost the likes of Lisa Thompson, Igemi Okoku, Lana Skeldon, Sarah Law, Laura Delgado, and probably their biggest departure, taliswoman Heather Kerr. They have announced a fresh intake of academy players, many who have come through the now abolished development squad. And they also recently announced a raft of signings, including former Wasp Tiana Gordon, a canny player who will add muscle to the pack, England youth player Jess Wayshu, who will fill in the second row position and has 15s experience at Worcester Warriors Women, winger Alyssa Jennings from Forward Waterloo, and Hong Kong international Mael Pico. But probably the most reassuring news for Sharks came when the club announced their retained list of forwards and backs. Yes, gone are some of the bigger names, but there is still some quality in the side, with experience at this level who can guide and mould the young players around them. The question is though, will it be enough? So let's look at what's still needed and who will make an impact for Sharks. Oh, and by the way, this is going to get proper confusing when Sale and DMP have to play each other. Anyway, it's easy to turn around and say they need some big signings, but that's exactly what's needed. To lose a number of international and experienced heads would affect any side, and although it's great seeing young players developing in this league, it makes me think the higher-ups in Durham are looking at the long game and thinking of repeating their first 3 years in the league with some lower table finishes followed by a third season of improved performances and better results. The question is, will that affect their next retendering? They are seriously going to have to rely on the powerful running and accurate boot of Beth Blacklock and the bulldozing ability of number 8 Lois Brown, who goes into her second season in the top flight, for them to get any results this year. Either that or some of the other players are going to have to start sharing the burden, as the only other players to score more than 3 tries each last year were Kerr and Ikoku, and they're both gone. Okay, so it's prediction time, and before I make my prediction, I would just like to say to all the DMP Durham Shark fans to go back over the 2019-2020 season and just look at all the times that I praised the club, the fans, the players, the management. Just go back and have a look. Because, yeah, this year I think they are going to finish last. Dead last. So that's it for this preview. What do you think? Do you agree with me, or do you think I'm talking out of my freshly cut grass? Leave your comments below. Do let us know what you think. We will try and get back to every single one. Yes, even the mean ones. And of course, please make sure that you give this video a like, subscribe to the Women's Rugby Show YouTube channel, turn on those notifications like I said before using that bell icon, and follow us across all these social media channels. And of course, we will see you next time for our 5th and final season preview. I'll leave you for a little bit so you can watch the next vid, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.